Well, Dylan Novak, welcome to the show.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
I tell you what, you know where I found you? I mean, you come up in my Facebook feed a lot. Every
Sorry
every
about that.
every third scroll is like, hey, Dylan Novak's giving a Bible to so and so. Dylan Novak's giving a Bible to so and so. Who is this guy? I got to talk to this guy. He's meeting some pretty fantastic people and sharing the gospel with them. So good on you, man. You rule the algorithm, I guess, or at least my
Well,
algorithm.
my wife is, and she is the social media manager, secretary, all that. Like people are like, so who's your team? Me and my wife. But she and I, when the ministry, we've been doing this 11 years. We've been together 8 years. I've been doing it 11 years.
Yeah.
What we started doing where everything's picked up, here's what we don't want happening. We don't want to witness to an A-list star that everyone loses their mind over, and then somebody be like, oh, here's somebody, nobody knows who they are. They're a D-list star. We're not even going to pay them any attention. And
Mm.
everybody equally deserves that spotlight for prayer. So once a day, we'll post somebody. And right now, I've got like 55 backed up right now.
Wow.
And even though on one hand I'm like, that's frustrating in itself, I'd rather that than just spam an algorithm and then people be like, well, I never even see these people. So that's kind of what we're doing. So thank you. That makes me feel like we're doing something right.
100% because I will click on those things, man. I'm like, who is he sharing the gospel with now? And I love the stories behind it. But before we get into that, I shared in the intro, shared about your mission and those things. But in reality, it looks like you're kind of a youth pastor at heart. Is that
Hmm.
right?
Yes, I'm a full-time youth pastor as well as doing this ministry full-time. I'm right now, as youth pastors would appreciate, the hungover Thursday. It's like, oh my goodness, what even happened last night? No, I had a kid come in and my wife thought he was having a stroke, like just the way his face was like contorting. And this kid, he is, I think Paul had a vision of this kid when he wrote about the thorn in his side. And it is
Maybe.
this kid, I was like, what's wrong? I told them I didn't want to play tag and they tagged me. Get
No.
over it.
Oh no.
Seminary does not prepare you for this nonsense. And
Oh
me and my best
yeah.
friend, he's my youth leader. I'm like, you tap in. I ain't dealing with this kid.
Oh my goodness.
But
Probably
yes,
sounds like a sixth grader. Sounds like a sixth grader. That's what
so
that
this
sounds
kid,
like.
the way our church is, youth group, what I'm over is 6th through 12th grade.
Right.
But on Wednesday nights, we feed all of the kids. So we get elementary kids. And this kid is in 4th grade. And
Okay.
I dread the day he turns 6th grade.
Oh, wow.
I'll say this, there will be many come to Jesus moments. He actually might
Hmm.
meet Jesus very soon. We'll find out.
We'll find out. We'll be sure to give him a Bible with his name engraved upon it before that happens. Okay.
Definitely.
So do your students know what you do? I mean, is this part of what you share with them and what are their thoughts about it? I don't know. It seems to me we could go 50-50. It's like, oh, snooze. Well, you met so and so. So which way does that gate swing with those
A
kids?
little bit of both. I think it's a given youth pastors are lame to their kids, which is fine. I love John Cooper's quote, you don't have to be cool, make Jesus cool. And
That's right.
so half of my kids they just bully me constantly anyway.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, once in a while they're like, you met Vecna from Stranger Things or Johnny Knoxville, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I have taken some of my kids with me before to Comic Cons. Back in July, there was a Comic Con less than an hour away, and I was like, all right, guys, you've wanted to go with me? Let's go. And so we took a crew down there, and I gave them freedom, within reason. These were more of my mature high school guys. I was like, all
Sure,
right.
sure.
They all met Gene Simmons with me. But I
Wow.
said, like some certain people, they're like, "Who's Priscilla Barnes?" I'm like, "Three's Company." What's Three's Company? And I'm like, "Oh
Come
my
on.
goodness." They knew Cousin Eddie, but
Of course.
but really, for the most part, they, and this is one thing I do like, they appreciate the ministry aspect of it more than, oh my goodness, it's such and such, which is what I always try to promote with anytime I share the ministry. Because I
Right.
feel like too often times, and I see it in my algorithm, I see it in the comments, we have sympathy and compassion for people that are nostalgic to us, that we're sentimental towards or whatever.
Yeah.
But then somebody who either has an opposing political view or we just are not a fan of them, we're the first ones to say, oh, to hell with them. And who cares? And it's
Mm,
like,
yeah.
we shouldn't be doing that. We should be looking at these people the same way God looks at them, the same way God looks at us, which is saved, not saved, guilty, not guilty, born again, dead in their sins. But yeah, a couple of my kids, it was funny you brought that up last night. I told them something was brought up, and I told him, I said, yeah, a YouTuber was brought up. I said, I'm going to see him in a couple weeks, and they're like, oh man, have you ever heard his podcast talking about being raised in Catholicism? I said, no. Oh, I'll send that to you. So we're already this year trying to push more evangelism on these kids.
Right.
I'll just spring evangelism nights on them. I'll walk into the upper room where we have our class, and I'll have a stack of tracts, and they're like, oh no. I'm like, oh yes, we're going out into town today. But it's making me happy that they're paying attention. Here's what this person believes, and here's how we can maybe reach them.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. These kids are especially the kids you brought with you, who are, you know, not starstruck, right?
Right.
They're not fanboys. They're not
Exactly.
they see people as they are, as they're not as
Right.
some romanticized or that type of version there, which is like you said, it's best to see them. The framework is to see them as in those spiritual terms. Like, listen, either you
Hmm.
know the Lord, you don't know the Lord. All your gifts and talents are not gonna, do it for you, right?
Exactly.
I'm more concerned about your soul than your accolades.
That's it. I will say though, it was really funny. When we were standing in line for Gene Simmons, they're like, "Is this the guy with the tongue?" I'm like, "Okay, never say that again." And yes.
Yes, it
Oh,
is.
and then they go, "Oh, he's a good one-hit wonder." I'm like, "Definitely don't say that out loud in this line." Oh my goodness, we're gonna get killed,
One
guys.
hit wonder. What are we
Yeah,
talking
no,
about?
yeah. Oh, I educated them driving here. Don't
Educate
worry.
them. Yes, children, pay attention.
Train
Gather
them a
around the
child the way they
campfire.
should go. And when
Let
they
me
are
tell
old, they
you.
will rock and roll all night.
Yes, let me tell you about Kiss, my friends. Let me tell you the lost history of. Did you ever see Scooby Doo?
Yeah,
By the way,
exactly.
come
It's like
on.
that was a monumental crossover there.
Absolutely unbelievable. Well, listen, I'm sure you haven't been doing this since birth, but
No.
so can you give us a little bit of the origin story, maybe of how you got involved with wanting to share with celebrities and how this whole thing kind of took off for you?
So, huge superhero pop culture nerd. I have been since I was a kid. And there was a Comic Con coming a couple hours from where I grew up, and I begged my parents to take me. And thankfully, they agreed to take me. One of the celebrities there was Margot Kidder, Lois Lane.
Yeah.
And I was so excited. I'm a huge Superman fan. And I saw an interview of her with Oprah, of all people. And she brought up that she was an atheist. And I
Mm,
remember as a 13-year-old, my heart was shattered because I got saved when I was 8 years old. And from the moment I got saved, I had a very clear understanding of how important it is to share the gospel, why we should share the gospel. And so it was I guess you could say a spiritual awakening, like, oh my goodness, Lois Lane is on her way to hell. And because
mm,
even though I knew that was Margot, my 13-year-old mind is still Superman. And I
sure.
remember praying, God, please send somebody to tell her about your son before it's eternally too late.
Mm,
And God really convicted my heart. What about you? You're going to be right in front of her. Why not you? And I played Jonah for a couple days. I was like, "Nah, I don't want to do that." And so
yeah. Yeah.
eventually surrendered. All right, God, I'll do this. And I got some tracks from my church, went to the event, gave them to everybody, and everybody was receptive about them, including Margot. So we'll fast forward 7 years. I'm 20, it's 2015. And I continued to go to these Comic Cons sporadically. When I would meet somebody, I would loosely research what they believed and I would give them a tract because even then my mindset was, I wonder if anybody's telling you about Jesus. I have this opportunity. Why can't I at least just lay a tract down here and hand it to you? Well, so 2015, I'd been wrestling with God again over my personal desires, what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to be a drummer more than anything. I'd been in drum competitions and different things. And God kept saying, nope, nope, pushing me towards ministry. And I'm like, okay, let's meet in the middle. How about a Christian drummer? And God's still like, no. Um, and So James Taylor was coming around doing a tour. And at the time, and I preface this, at the time I was not a fan. I could have cared the less. Now I love James Taylor's music, but that, and not that that's relevant, but I've shared this story without saying I appreciate his music now, and I've actually gotten messages. You've just been listening to the wrong music. I'm like, listen, I was 20. I didn't know. My music algorithm when I was 20 was the Beatles, the Monkees, Beach Boys, and Weird Al. Um,
Yeah,
that should explain a
I
lot about
like
my
it. I like it.
personality there. The fact that Weird Al was my first concert should tell you all you need to know about me.
There we
But
are.
um, so a very godly man at my church said, "Are you going to go try to give a tract or anything to James Taylor?" And because I would go to backstage doors, I'd graduated to doing stuff on the street, and I was like, I don't know. And he's like, why not? Well, I knew in my heart, why not? I just didn't care. And he said, I would encourage you, just look up what he has said and go from there. And he knew what he had said. In 1991, he'd done an interview where he said both of his parents were atheists. He was agnostic, but he would be open to listen if somebody were to take the time to share something spiritually with him that he wasn't raised with. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's an open door. If our next door neighbor said that, we'd be smashing in the doors, SWAT team for Jesus. Here, you want to
Yeah.
know? We're going to tell you. Are people doing that for James, though? And so I remember telling my mom, I wish I had the time to say this, this, and this, but I may not have the time. And my mom was like, well, why don't you write him a letter? And so that's where writing the letters to these people began. And so after that, I got him a Bible, some different tracks, wrote the letter, and it took me 3 days to get in front of James. I missed him in Knoxville, missed him, I forget what the second city was, and then eventually was able to get in front of him in Greensboro, North Carolina. I guess he had Carolina on his mind. See, I can't do that joke at youth groups. Nobody laughs, which if
Yeah.
nobody's
Yeah.
laughing now either, but I
Well,
like to make the joke.
yeah. Well,
Um,
he's seen the fire and the rain,
yeah,
So
exactly. He saw it really well up on the roof.
yeah, that's
But
right.
but so um I got to have about a 15-minute conversation with him. He was so sweet and gracious. It ended with him giving me a hug and he said, "I remember that interview. You're the first person to tell me something since that interview." And I remember driving home that night feeling two emotions. One, it was the greatest joy because I'm like, I did what God asked me to do. And you know that as well as I do. When we follow God's will, we
Yeah.
have a joy and a peace that is like no other. On the other hand, I felt an extreme burden because I realized nobody's reaching these people. It is, these people are known, but they're forgotten. It's a lost mission field. And just driving home, it was about a 3 hour drive home. I just did a lot of thinking. I did a lot of praying. And I'm like, all right, God, if you want me to do this, I'll do it. And I prayed, God, one, please show me I'm not wasting my time. And number two, open doors. I'm in Southwest Virginia. This isn't New York. This isn't Los Angeles. I didn't even step foot in Los Angeles until 2 years ago. That, I mean, it was so funny. Churches would message me and be like, "Would you mind coming to speak to our youth group?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." Okay, so do you fly out of LAX? I'm like, "I've never stepped foot in LAX. I am in Tennessee." And it's so funny. They're like, "You're like 4 hours from me." I'm like, "Yeah, I'll just drive that." And so, and that's really how the ministry began.
Wow. And that is something too to know that people have an idea, I think, and you correct me if I'm wrong, that because you're famous, you know everything.
Hmm.
Like, how could they not know? Right. Or maybe that's true of everybody too, that you think, well, surely you live in America. Surely you have some sort of gospel idea. You know who Jesus is, you know who God is. And people think, well, why would James Taylor? James Taylor's got more than enough information to make
Right.
decisions about his own faith. And to hear the fact that he said that since that time, nobody had a conversation with him about it
24
but you,
years.
which
Right. It's
blows my mind.
it's very excuse me. It's very disturbing. And I think that captures a picture of evangelism in America because I feel like churches are they're very excited to send missionaries to foreign countries. And I've never really said this. This might I hope this doesn't offend anybody, but I think one of the reasons why is because a lot of people in these third world countries they've never heard anything. So you're seeing a quote unquote revival happen in large numbers much more quickly.
Yeah.
Versus, I have a friend who's a pastor in Pasadena, right outside of Los Angeles. And he told me, he said, when I was sent out here to plant a church, I can't tell you how many churches were like, oh, your numbers are really bad. It looks like only 4 professions of faith in the first quarter of the year. And he's like, so wasn't this worth it for those 4 people? And I'm like, there it is. We look at numbers instead of souls.
Yeah.
And I'm not discrediting missionaries in third world countries by any means. I want to make that
Right.
very clear.
Sure.
I one of my favorite times growing up was mission conferences. I remember our children's church, they would literally make us a passport, and every night we would get it stamped to the different missionary country that would come in and show
Right.
things. And it was just so great. And it also did show the importance of why do we share Jesus? And people are hungry, people are searching. But if people were to stop and look in their own backyard, look in their own neighborhood, in their own communities, they would realize there's a mission field right there that nobody's reaching.
No question. I remember too, and you probably remember the interview with, I think it was Penn Jillette, who
Yep.
says, I would I would be angry. I would be angry with you if you knew I was going to hell and didn't tell me
Yeah.
that you would not, you would not be obedient to your own faith. Even though Penn Jillette's an atheist, he's
Right.
offended by those who don't lean into the fact that
Exactly.
the truth.
And he just did a video this past week. Somebody sent it to me. I'm gonna mess up his name, Billy Corrigan from Smashing
Oh yeah,
Pumpkins.
yeah,
They
Smashing
were doing a
Pumpkins, yeah.
podcast, and Billy was asking him what brought you to being an atheist, and Penn said, "I don't like the term atheist. I'm agnostic because." And it's a long interview, and it's really, I think, as anybody who is a pastor, anybody who shares the gospel, so let's just say all Christians
Yeah.
should watch this because it gave a really good insight to his mindset. Because he said, I am actively not a believer because I don't have evidence. But the moment there's evidence, I become a believer. Because I'm not, he said, my mindset is, I don't know, but I don't think you know either. And I was like, that really gives you a good idea of how to witness to this type of mindset. And it's sad because he seems to be somebody who is open, but he wants every answer. He wants everything
Yeah.
right in front of him. And sadly, there comes a point that you have to have faith. Um, but no, I just recently witnessed to a comedian. His name's Bobby Lee, and he kind of had the same mindset.
Oh, Bobby Lee, yeah.
He got very mad at a friend of his on a podcast. Ironically, the podcast was called Bad Friends, and I think his friend is a bad friend. But he got mad because he said, "You don't want me to be saved. You've never invited me to church. You've never told me about Jesus." And I was like, that right there should convict every Christian in the world
Yeah.
because I think that's more of people's mindset than we would ever imagine.
Right. And I'm going to link for those that are watching, those that are listening, I'm going to link those videos down in the show notes because they're important enough to watch, as well as the original Pendulette
Mhm.
video. I'll put that down there as
Yes.
well. But as you put those together and kind of fit the mindset, because I did watch that Bobby Lee. Bobby Lee's in my
Mhm.
algorithm as well. So yeah. So for Bobby Lee to say
Bobby.
that is
I'm
is
done. I
uh
had to
is
do it.
he's Bobby Lee is a funny dude, man.
He is hilarious. Remind me, remind me when we're done recording. I'm going to tell you word for word what he said when I met him. He was very nice,
Yeah.
but man, he went off the rails. He was hilarious, but I was like, oh my goodness, how are you not canceled? It's hilarious.
Love it.
He
Love it.
seems
Love
like a
it.
good guy.
Yeah, that's how he strikes me as well. There's a lot of nice people. Unfortunately, there's a lot of nice people going to hell.
Yes,
There's a lot of
that's it
nice,
right there.
kind, good, funny,
Hmm.
and unfortunately, that masks the spiritual condition, at
Yes.
least for us, maybe who are on the outside of things.
Oh my
You know,
goodness, I can't. There is a lady. There's a lady at my church, and I love her very dearly. And she was talking, and she said, "Did you ever meet Bruce Willis?" And I said, "No, never had an opportunity." She said, "Well, don't worry. I know he's a Christian, so that would have just been cool if you met him." And I just kind of sat there for a minute and not judgmentally, but I'm like, I really want to know the mindset here. I said, I gotta be careful not to say her name because, like I
sure,
said, very sweet lady. I said,
Mrs. Jones, Mrs. Jones.
yes, yes, Mrs. Jones. Why do you believe that? Oh, he is such a sweet, kind person, blah blah blah. He says God bless when he got his Oscar, this and this and this. I'm like, And
Mm,
I'd never researched Bruce Willis because there's some celebrities I can just rattle off and tell you exactly what they believe, even though I've never met them, like Penn.
right.
Um, I'd love to talk to him one day. But Bruce, he was somebody I was like, there's no sense in me researching him. And the reason for that is because I believe he is just it's too late. It's gone. His mindset. And it's just
Right.
his condition is heartbreaking.
Sure.
Um, but that being said, I was like, I'm gonna research just for argument's sake. And this man is a universalist. Very
Hmm.
clearly says all roads lead to heaven. Word, I
Yeah.
mean, quote, all you get to heaven your own way and different things. And I showed it to her, and she goes, well, I think he's changed. I said, okay, why do you think he's changed? And that brings in the other problem that we have with this ministry. People, oh, I know this person. No, you don't. As Jerry Seinfeld said, it's a one-sided relationship. It is
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
think you know me, but you don't. You've created an image of me and a persona of me that's not me. But it opened the door to have that uncomfortable conversation of people that are charismatic, sweet, loving, and kind. That doesn't cut it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I could ramble about that a long time.
No doubt, no doubt. But I think that does bring us to the point where I asked, where, what is your process then? What is your process for which celebrities you say, I'm going to go share the gospel with them? Or, how do you determine, is there an order? Is there a process you go through? So, oh, I feel like we need to do this, or tell me how you work it out.
So it's it's a process that's changed a lot through the years. Because for the longest time, the ministry was just within a 6 hour radius of um, Southwest Virginia, East Tennessee. Now it's coast to coast. And there's always something going on. There's always a signing. There's always a Comic Con. Today, there's something going on. Tomorrow. So it gets to a point of how do we determine where to go? And it's a lot of prayer. It's a lot of prayer, a lot of research because when I'm going to meet somebody, um, I will heavily research online what is their faith background, what are some things they've said. And there are many people that I'll go to that I'm like, I have no idea what you believe. But then there's also people like James Taylor. It's like, okay, you have become somebody that is, I hate to say on the radar, but it's like, okay, priority right here. Bobby Lee, the same thing. I saw that video in October and I'm like, all right. And I was just basically my radar, it's like pinging, where's Bobby Lee? And then when I
Yeah,
was in
yeah,
Los Angeles, he popped up at a comedy show and I'm like, there we go. That's where we're going. So it's kind of like that. And then Comic Cons get really interesting because, it's one thing on the street. It's another thing. These Comic Cons, you're on a time constraint and it's always beat the clock. And the last few conventions we've gone to, when I say we've barely gotten to everybody, I mean barely. And anybody who goes to a Comic Con, there's no predicting lines. There have been people I've stood in line for 5 hours that I was like, I thought I was just going to walk up to this person, and then vice versa. So again, a lot of prayer, research. God, who is it that you want us to reach to? And and I'll every now and then somebody, it's really funny. One time, I posted a picture with somebody, and their neighboring celebrity at the autograph show was right. I mean, like 5 feet from me, and they were like, "Did you get to witness such and such?" And I said, "No, I didn't get an opportunity." They're right there. Yes, their line was capped for the day.
yeah.
Well, why didn't you just walk over there? That's not how that works.
I'd rather not be escorted away from the event.
Oh yeah. The
Handcuffs.
messages I get are pretty interesting sometimes. So I mean, I get a lot of really sweet messages. It's always encouraging when people are like, "Hey, here's a video of this person saying this thing." But then yeah, there's like somebody last night, they sent a message basically like, "Hey, I love what you're doing, but you're doing it wrong. Here's how to do it." I was like,
Oh,
okay, which to that, and this can go with youth ministry or anything.
sure.
If God is showing you how to do something, then do it.
Yeah.
Be my guest. And that's not me saying I'm going to step back and let you take my job or my ministry, but hey, every ministry needs more help, more hands.
Absolutely.
I had somebody message me and said, I hope you don't take offense to this. I'm going to give such and such a Bible. I said, why in the world would I take offense to that? We need more people doing this. I can't reach everybody.
That's right.
I said, that'd be like, hey, we already have a missionary in Peru, so we don't need a second missionary in Peru. The world needs Jesus, and the harvest is plenteous, but the laborers are few.
That's right. That's right. You're not gonna, plenty of celebrities to go around, by the way.
Oh,
Nobody
yes.
owns Hollywood, I
I'm
don't think.
No, no. And again, it is such a small world. People don't realize how close they are to celebrities sometimes, I don't think. I was stuck at a layover 2 weeks ago flying to the University of Arkansas, and Aubrey Plaza walked right by me.
Oh,
And I had just witnessed to her a few months prior. I was going to talk to her again. She was surrounded by her people. I was like, this
yep.
is not a situation. Again, you have to read the room, read the
Read the
situation.
room,
But
right?
I did sit there because I was sitting getting lunch and I saw her go by and I was like, it looks like, oh, that 100% is her. And I was like, and I looked at what gate she was going to. She was flying to New York. I was like, ah, it makes sense. Nobody, I looked around. I was like, nobody knows. Nobody notices. And again, I think it's just because these people are on my radar. I see, that's just where my mind is. But it just goes to show, I was like, those opportunities are left and right. And the funny thing is, I've had some people say, I was just talking to this random stranger on a train one time, telling him about Jesus, and then found out it was XYZ person. And I was like,
Yeah.
exactly. And I said, the beautiful thing is you were talking to them as if you didn't know who they were, because that's how we should talk to these people.
Right, right, right. Just saying, hey, you know what? As if we didn't know who they were. We would talk to
Yes.
them because if we knew who they were or embrace the fact of who they were, it might change
Right.
what we say to them
Mm-hmm.
and how we say
It
it.
exactly. We let the hum the I don't want to say the politics, but the popularity, the clout, whatever, get in the
Yeah,
way. And
right.
there is a time and place to address, like, I am a fan or whatever. I always tell people God has made me a fan of who I need to be a fan of. I literally had to prove my fandom to Paul Simon when I met him because he was not going to give me the time of day. He said, "You're too young to know who I am." I'm like, "No, I love you." And he was like, if you were a fan, this and this and this, and I just started, rattling it off,
Yeah.
and again, that was a whole God story in itself, and it ended very well. But there's moments like that. I'm like, there is a time to do that because they are so jaded with people,
That's right. They've
and
seen it all.
yes, and I've had a like Cheap Trick, Robin Zander told me, he was like, so why us? Why evil rock and rollers from Hollywood? I said, you're not evil. I've been around evil. You're not evil. He's like, yeah, we're about as far from evil as you get. And trust me, I know people who have worked behind the scenes and they're like, oh yeah, those are good guys. And that's another good thing through doing this ministry. I've found out, people who I'm like, man, you have good morals versus, oh my goodness. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Principled people. Yeah.
yeah, but I said, who's reaching you guys? I just asked him face to face. I said, when was the last time somebody came up to you and talked to you about Jesus? He said, oh gosh, people still do that? And I pointed, we were in an airport. I said, well, the Jehovah's Witnesses are over there. Their Jesus is a false Jesus. But he goes, they're still in business? I'm like, yeah, unfortunately. But I told him, I said, the reason why, I pointed to his manager and security guard, I said, they're keeping people from you. But when I come up with the quote unquote fan approach, oh my goodness, Mr. Xander, could I get a quick photo with you or whatever? That wall gets opened, that door gets
Yeah.
opened, and then it's like, hey, Trojan horse, here's Jesus.
There you go. There you go. Now I could not I don't want to say I couldn't do what you do. I don't know if I'm very hesitant anyway. I'm not a like I had Michael Bean was, from Terminator,
Oh yeah.
from all those, right? So he was there and I was there with my son and he says, "Won't you come say hi?" I said, "No, I don't want to do that." I said, "I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Just look, he let his work stand
Go
alone."
with him
Okay.
if you want to live.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to live, so I stayed away from him. I just said, "Look, I just let it stand on its
Death
own." I
follows
feel
that
weird.
guy.
I feel weird. I just feel weird going up to people. I'm like, I'm 58. I don't want to go up to him and say, "Jolly Mr. Bean."
Uh,
I don't want to have that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be that guy. I want to be just like, "Hey, bro, thanks, man. That's it. Let me, buy you a drink." Whatever,
right.
whatever. That's all I want to do. See him so much. Hey, I'll pay for your dinner. Thank you, man. Appreciate all the work you did. God bless. That's
Right.
all I wanted. I don't want to. I want autograph. I don't collect autographs. I don't collect that. That's just me.
Right.
maybe it's come from like don't meet your heroes kind of a thing, or maybe it's
Hmm.
from a just a
And
like I
that's
don't want
true,
to
by the
impose.
way.
I don't want to impose on people. I'm not a person who likes to impose. I don't want to go up there and like throw myself upon them when they've had a million people do that. Like I'm like, listen, let's just let them rest. Let them take a nap. Let them leave them alone. Let them breathe.
Exactly.
Let them
It's
breathe.
like it is a fine line. Because on one hand, it's like, oh my goodness, I don't want to invade this person's privacy. On the other
Yeah,
hand, it is a very different world. I mean, a very, very different world. Um, they're almost expected at all times somebody's going to come up to them. That being said, I've never bugged somebody at a restaurant. Or no, 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 no. Time out. I take that back.
oh
Let me give the story real quick. Uh,
yes.
and it was in a Comic Con setting, so it shouldn't have even been this way. It was Tim Curry. It was the only time I
Oh
ever had an opportunity to see Tim Curry, and of course, you probably know where he had his stroke. He's in
yeah,
health. So he would go to Comic Cons. He wouldn't sign autographs. He would just sit in a photo booth. You would get a photo with him, but you could talk to him there. And I was like, well,
sure.
that's great. That's what I need. So I bought a ticket and I said, when do I go? And they said, oh, whenever. He'll be there all night. Well, this was the very, very, very early days. And so I didn't realize that all night literally did not mean until the show closed. Well, I came back from seeing Paul Rubens and Tim was gone. And I was like, what? And I was only there that night. I'm like, I have failed God. I have failed my ministry. This was one of the main people I came up here for. Again, there were a lot of learning lessons those early days. That was 2018.
Yeah,
Um, and I was pretty upset and I was praying, God, what do I do? How do I handle this? And they were like, we'll give you a refund, all that. I'm like, I don't care about a refund. Go get him out of his hotel room. Let me go up there. Let me just give him this gift and I'll leave him alone. Well, then there was this really fancy restaurant inside the hotel, and I look and I was like, oh my goodness, there he is. He was sitting towards the back. And I was like, who cares? I just got to own the situation. So I watched him order. And the moment he and his assistant handed the menus to the waiter, I just made a beeline into the restaurant. And it was one of those moments, seize the moment. If I hadn't done that, I'm like, because one hand I was like, oh, I'll just wait for him to leave. And I'm like, there could be a door back there, an elevator. No, just seize the moment.
yep,
So I just walked up to his table, Mr. Curry. Yes, sir. He just he is a sweet man. He's exactly who he portrays himself to be.
yeah,
And his assistant manager, she tried to at first be like, "Hey, no, I had my ticket." I said, "Here's what happened. I don't expect you to take a photo with me here. I have this gift for you, blah blah. Blah. Take a seat until my food comes. Take a seat." And he was like, "Yeah, I just left because nobody was coming and I got hungry." And he said, "I'm more than happy to talk with you, young man, until my food comes." So we got to have an even better that whole situation worked out
wow,
better. And then we did take a photo. And his assistant manager, she was a very sweet lady. She said, "I hope you understand why I was trying to stop you at first." I said, "Absolutely." I was
right.
ready to drop this and walk away. Um, but that was a different situation. But I have seen people go up to people while they're eating, and I'm just like, I'm dying
Mm,
inside. I'm like, let them
no,
eat, let them have a moment. You don't own these
yes,
people. That's one thing that just irritates me. I'll hear people, well, they owe it to us. No, they don't.
no,
No, they don't.
not at all.
It's a weird world.
Do you know? Have you? I imagine you have kept track. Do you know how many celebrities you've shared the gospel with?
It's a little over 2,000.
Wow.
Yeah, it is. And that's the thing. Some years are just so much crazier than others. Um, like last year, oh my goodness, it was the biggest year we've ever had with ministry. Just where God brought so much attention to the ministry. Like I said, people are like, "Oh man, when did you start doing this?" I'm like, 10 years ago. And they're like, "How have we never heard of you?" I don't know. I've not changed a single thing. The approach, everything is the same. How I post, nothing changed. It
Yeah.
just, it was God. But through that, I was able to travel more places. I was flown out different places. Well, a couple of those places I was flown to was New York and Los Angeles. So I was like, all right, let's do this.
Yeah.
And it was phenomenal. And so I'm praying that God just continues to open those doors like that. And already this year, this, we're just at the beginning of February and we've done more with the ministry this first month and a half than we did the first quarter of last year. So I'm
Wow.
like, all right, let's just keep this rolling.
Absolutely. Has there ever been a celebrity you were shocked by the response to what you offered them?
Oh, many. Goodness gracious, good or
That's
bad?
either good or bad. It's either good or
Yeah.
bad. Yeah.
Um,
That you were taken aback. You were like
I,
either by their graciousness or reception or about their revulsion at some point.
I'll tell you one that I don't tell often. Tom Hanks.
Oh, Tom
So,
Hanks. Okay.
and this is a crazy story, and I like sharing these stories because it I hate saying it like this, but I think sometimes people are like, "Oh yes, you got to a Comic Con, you walked up to that person," and there's not too much of a crazy story there. I like to share, because Tom Hanks was not at the Comic Con,
Right.
and I also like to shine light on how God uses people and how God just does little miracles that we may not notice any other time. So there was an event happening in Nashville, and Tom's wife does a lot of music, Rita Wilson,
Right.
and it was not a super well-known event, and Rita was going to be there, and I told Morgan, I said, I think Tom's coming. Which again, I want to witness to Rita just as much as I do Tom, but I was like, I'm going to be prepared. I think Tom's coming. And it was a good situation because there were like 50 well-known entertainment people there that I was like, this is a great platform in general. And this is also a great gamble on Forrest Gump. Well, I get to the event, and I've been to this venue before, and security can be an issue sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, this day, they had police had blocked off the whole street. It was
Mm.
unlike anything I'd ever seen. And so I jokingly made a comment to a security guard. I said, "Is the president coming?" And he said, "Close, his wife." And I was like, "You gotta be kidding me." Joe Biden was coming.
Wow.
And I was like, "This is a nightmare." And Morgan's like, "Hey, that's an opportunity witness to her." I'm like, "No, it's not. She's in, Joe is in office. That means no, there's no shot. That just shot the entire day pretty much." But I'm
Yeah.
also of the mindset, I'm like, it's not over till it's over. So I just kept sitting there and I was like, God, if there's an open door, I pray that you'll show it to me. Well, the open door was no celebrity could just drive up to the door. They had to go through security right where I was. Like, because it was like airport style
Oh.
security.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, nobody's going to take a gift for the most part going right into the venue. It's like, here's this gift, carry it in there where Secret Service is. That's not going to happen.
Yes. No.
But what happened was I was able to stop them at their car, and one of two things was happening. I was able to, again, I was not the only one there, so it was a little more chaotic. But the gift, they either put it in their car immediately then because the parking lot was right there. Like this, I was seeing, here comes Kelly Pickler driving herself up and different things. So it's like, here, let me just, they either put it in their car or said, "Oh, well, if you're here when I leave, I'll take it." Okay, I'll be here. I got nothing else to do today. Well, then this one SUV drives right up to the door, and I assumed that it was going to be Jill, and it was not. It was Tom and Rita. And I was like, I guess Tom Hanks is just such a national treasure. He's absolutely no threat to go through security. And
Right.
we yelled out to him. He waved, and I was like, well, my suspicions were correct. He's here. Um, well, then there's this guy. I didn't really know him at the time. He's a professional autographer.
Mm.
We're just chit chatting. Seems like a nice kid. And he said, "Are you going to follow?" I said, "What do you mean?" So, for those of you who don't know, it's literally Princess Diana all over again. It's like, all right, we're getting in our cars and we're chasing. And
Wow.
that happens more times than people would realize that autographers do that. And I will go along with it because be all things to all people. And if you're going to get the gospel through this, it is what it is. Do I think it's normal? No. Do I like it? No. But does it help the mission? Unfortunately. So I said, no, my car is parked like 2 miles from here. I don't have a car. And he goes, you can get in with me. You got something to tell him about Jesus? And at the time, he had not been around me. So I was like, how does he know that? And I was like, yeah, yeah. And he said, yeah, I want Tom to get the gospel. So he pointed out, he's like, that's my car. Tom's not stopping here. You can get in the car with me. And I was like, okay. So when Tom came out that night, there was probably 50 people there screaming at Tom. He waves, gets in the car. Me and this guy, we run like the devils after us. We get in his car and we go flying through Nashville. And I was like, this is crazy. And the whole time, Tom knew we were following because,
Oh boy.
which is never good because
Never
the
good.
left turn signal's on, he turns right. And I'm like, oh no. Oh, this is bad. And
Yeah. Yeah.
and the whole time, Morgan, she's like, so you got in the car with a stranger? Yep.
Yeah.
Were you scared? I was scared, but not for that. I'm like, Woody's about to say mean things to me here in a minute.
Yeah. Yeah. Or call the
Um,
cops or something. Yeah.
and so we get it gets to a point. He said, I know what hotel he's going to. So we pass him, and I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm along for the ride.
Oh boy.
We're not the only ones. There's like five other cars doing the same thing. We all line up by the hotel door, and we everybody had something for him to sign, and it was like, this guy was like the ringleader. He's like, all right, orderly line, blah 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 blah. Tom just sits there for like a minute, and it felt like it was the longest minute I've ever lived because I'm like,
Yeah.
I am bracing for what I am about to hear.
Yeah.
Gets out of the car. Howdy, fellas. How are you all? And I'm like, what? And he goes, all
Did
right.
he say there's a snake in my boot?
He did not, but his voice was very Woody that night. He said, all right, here's what we're going to do. One per customer. One per customer. If you want a photo, wait till the end. And I'm like, what is happening?
Wow.
Again, this is a glimpse also into how sadly normal this is for them. And a statement was made one time, not from him, but one celebrity told me, he said, I would rather stop for the people that follow me than the people at the venue because you all are professionals. You all know how to act versus everybody over there. They're just crazy. And I'm like, that's a fair point. And I've seen both sides of that. And so, and again, doesn't always work out, but so Tom was I mean, he's just in the nicest mood I'd ever heard of him being in. And I told him, I said, I have you a gift. And he said, okay, get at the end of the line. I don't want to hold that the whole time I'm signing. Makes sense. So I get to the end of the line, show it to him, and he said, what is this? And the first thing he pulled out was Jefferson Bethke's book, Jesus is Greater Than Religion. And he goes, oh, so you're a Jesus guy. I said, I sure am. So what organization do you work for? Who are you? What company organization are you
Yeah.
promoting?
Right.
I said, I'm not promoting any organization, just Jesus. Just Jesus. I like that. I used to go to a Bible club when I was in high school, which here's the crazy thing. One of his old friends who used to go to Bible club with him in high school follows my ministry page, and he's messaged me pictures of him and Tom in high school. He's like, oh yeah, we
Wow.
went every week to this Bible club. And he said, hearing
Wow.
him bring that up makes me so happy knowing that there was still some seeds planted. And Tom told me, he said, those were some of the happiest moments of my teenage years. Yes, yeah, I mean, there's a part of me that still wants to go back to that. And I said, it's never too late to go back, Tom. And I said, I've researched because he talked about that in an interview one time. I said, from what I understand, it was a Bible believing Bible club that you were in. He said, oh, yes, it was very evangelical. I appreciate this. Just Jesus. I like that. And I was like, I just loved hearing Tom Hanks, just Jesus. And I'm like, that's it. That's what we're pushing. That's what we're promoting. You know, I don't want to be like, oh, you have to do this. And no, just
No.
Jesus. As
Yeah. That's it. So anything beyond that is just a sell job.
it is. And to end that story, like I said, I don't think I've ever told that story on a podcast or anything. So that young man who let me get in his car, like, I mean, we were all giddy. Everyone's like jumping up and down. We're like, oh my goodness, it went so well. And here's the funny
Wow.
thing. When Rita got out of the car, I said, Miss Wilson, I have you a gift, which is ironic. Her last name's Wilson. I wonder if Tom ever, Wilson, I'm sorry. Anyway, I'm done. But I said her name and he goes, oh no, she's on the clock. She's working. You all want me anyway. That's why y'all are here, which he was right. She
Yeah.
was to everybody else there. She was a quote unquote bonus. And I said, well, I have her a gift as well. And he said, oh, give it to me. I'll take it to her. And, I watched him go in the hotel, getting on the elevator, and he was handing her the gift and they were talking. And I was like, man, that was such a mission accomplished. But so I told the young man, I said, I don't know how I'll ever thank you. Do you want a tip? What do you want? He said, that's a thank you for you telling a 13-year-old kid where David Spade was. And I didn't realize it. So years and years prior to that, I'd met David Spade in Nashville at a comedy club. And he came out of a door. There was another door at this place. And I
Yeah.
remember a young man and his dad waiting there. And I went over to him and I said, hey, David's over here signing autographs. And little did I know that kid was going to grow up and help me get the Tom Hanks. So I was like,
Wow.
man, God works in mysterious ways.
That is some crazy stuff there.
So yeah,
That
that story shocked me. Not just how he reacted, but just how the whole event, the whole night went.
right. Which should then speak, I think, to the fact that listen, not everybody's going to hate you if you share the gospel with
Mhm.
them. Not everybody's going to be offended. Not everybody's going to. That's the great fear, I think, right,
It
amongst
is.
people who would want to share the gospel with somebody is that they're just going to be hateful or they're going to attack
And
me
that
or
is going
they're
to
going to do
happen.
something. Oh,
And, and
sure,
and
sure.
I'll say this, I won't, for time's sake, I won't go on and on and on. I've witnessed to Chevy Chase 8 times.
Well,
And over the past, yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, I
yeah.
don't, sadly, you just say his name and there doesn't need to be much explanation.
No, I watched the documentary too, so I'm like,
I
yeah,
have yet to watch it. I've been sent clips and I was like, yep, there he is.
there
That's
he
what
is.
I've seen this man for a decade.
Yeah,
Nothing shocks me. And it's very sad. Just I want to preface that, but over the decade, he's gotten nicer. He had gotten nicer towards me. He always would remember me. He seemed to be more open. The first time I met him, he said, "You're trying to give an atheist a Bible. That's really stupid." So I'd followed it up with Lee Strobel stuff and different things. Well, in August, I was like, "Well, I'm going to try to talk to him again
yeah,
with the Bible because there comes a point. It's like we got to get to this. Like we can talk about the whole questions of the universe and that's great, and that's stepping stones. But let's get to the Word."
right.
And he said, "What is that? A Bible? What a waste of effing money."
Woo.
And his manager tried to save him face, and he said he wouldn't let the manager save him face, and the manager got
No,
mad because again, his manager would remember me too, and I had a good conversation with him after this whole thing, and I'm like, maybe I've been witnessing to you this whole time. That's what I tell people. There's always someone else listening that you don't realize.
right,
And Chevy did end. He said, "I could have said that nicer. I know you love and care about me. I'm not interested. It's not me. I want nothing to do with him. I want nothing to do with this. It's not me. It will never be me. So don't waste your time and money on me anymore." And I told him, I said, "Mr. Chase, I appreciate you just being real and honest with me. I'd rather somebody be real with me than fake. Um, I can promise you, I said, I can't promise you that I'll never see you again because that's a small world. But I can promise this is the last time I'm ever going to try to bring you something. And I can also promise you that I'm going to get thousands of people praying for you." "Oh, yeah, sure. Okay, let's take a photo." And then I did strategically post about him right at Christmas because I wanted anytime somebody heard Clark Griswold, saw the movie,
yeah,
whatever, I'm like, pray for this man. And I saw at one point, um, like a friend of mine sent it to me. It was a trending thing. I think it was on X, pray for Chevy Chase. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. That's incredible. And I think through that again, and I share that story not to bash Chevy,
right,
but to also show the realness of here's evangelism because my students, I asked them, I'm like, what's your biggest holdback with evangelism besides the social norms? And they're mentioning people that we love, like Zane Black and Shane Pruitt, and these people who I have the utmost respect for.
right.
But they're like, it seems to always go well for them and it never goes well for me. And what I want to do with my ministry is be like, here's the good, here's the bad, here's the ugly.
Right.
And because I don't want somebody going up to somebody going, "Oh man, I guess I must not be cut out for this because it didn't go well for me." No, the rejections are more common than they're not in any department of ministry.
Any scenario, right? Not just Hollywood, your neighbor, the
Yes,
person down the street, the guy at the gas station. It's
but it's still seeds planted.
100%, 100%. So what do you think then? What do youth pastors, what do you want youth pastors to know about Hollywood, celebrities, fame, whatever it is that they have wrong? Well, that they're have a preconceived idea and maybe change their mentality about either evangelism, right? Or
Mhm.
even the fact that greater I don't know, the greater need of places beyond them that need hope like that.
So I would say this: not everyone that we put a face to is evil. Um, like this past week, I'm so exhausted scrolling social media. If I see the word Bad Bunny or Kid Rock one more time, I'm going to throw my laptop through a window. I could ramble about that all day. I'm
Yeah.
not going to.
No.
All I'll say is you can put nice seasoning on top of a giant pile of poop and it doesn't make
Yeah.
it good.
No.
And you can't sprinkle Jesus on something that isn't good either. I saw sin on both. I watched both halftime shows. There was bad at
Yeah.
both,
Yeah.
and I have had people say, "Well, why are you praising Jelly Roll and you're not praising Kid Rock?" Well, because I've seen a change in Jelly Roll because he has gotten discipling around him. I've seen that change. It was not an immediate "let's throw him on a platform." Um, and somebody last night was like, "Well, he still says bad words." I'm like, "Yes, I'm so glad I don't have somebody following me with a camera 24/7. We're all
Mm,
flawed. That's why we need Jesus." It's a
that's right.
it's Here's the difference. Is it a lifestyle of sin or slipping and falling into sin? And I've witnessed the Kid Rock. I'm not going to share my last Kid Rock story on this platform, but let me just say it was very bad, and that was just 2 years ago. It was actually
Mm,
it was the night before Tom Hanks. But that all being said, it is so easy for us as youth pastors. We hear we hear who our kids listen to, who they like, and it's so easy for us to critique it. I'm going to share a story from my youth and when I was a youth in youth ministry. I had a new youth pastor at the time. And I'm going to preface this and say that I'm very good friends with this youth pastor now. At the time, he was very legalistic, fundamentalist. Um, I came in wearing an Iron Man shirt. I love character shirts. I'm 31 years old. I still do. I'm wearing a Star Wars one right now.
yeah.
But my very first impression of him, never met him before. I was excited. This guy's my new youth pastor. And he shakes my hand and goes, "Who's that on your shirt?" I said, "Oh, it's Iron Man." And I'm 13. Wait a minute. Yeah, I was 12, 13 at the time. And he goes, "Well, I hope you're reading your Bible as much as you're watching that filth." And walked away. And
Ooh. Ooh.
I was like, "What?"
Mm,
And then he got up there and said, "I'm changing my sermon." And he's just started preaching about how evil the entertainment world is. And I'm like,
mm.
huh? And so, I mean, again, I felt massively targeted, and that created a huge rift with us for years. Like I said, this is a man I've gone to concerts with now, and we're good friends, and we joke about it. But I think that God used that to give me an insight because I'm sitting there. I felt attacked because it wasn't that he was attacking Robert Downey Jr. It wasn't that he was attacking Marvel, Hollywood, or anything like that. I felt like he was attacking me.
Right.
Um, and because a lot of kids do find their identity in their entertainment world, what we need to do is to have conversations. Like, for example, Billie Eilish's statement, "No one is illegal on stolen land." I'm like, okay, well, that's illogical and stupid. But again, these kids are like, "Oh, okay, that makes
Profound.
sense. Yeah,
Profound.
it sounds good." That's the thing. It sounds good. So we have, as youth pastors, one of two approaches. We either attack Billie Eilish or we attack the argument. Attack the argument.
Right.
Because here's what I have to remember. Billie is just a kid. And to me, she's still a kid. I'm like, she's a kid who doesn't know any better. She's a lost soul. How can we expect the lost to act saved? We can't.
No.
Now, that being said, I'll have youth pastors say, "Well, don't you believe that there's evil in Hollywood?" 100%. 100%. These files should be showing it more than ever. But you want to know what I'm seeing more of in these files that just continues to validate my argument? I've made this argument for 10 years. The main evil in Hollywood is the things you don't see. It's the people
Oh
behind the
yeah.
scenes. It's the producers. It's the follow the money. It's all a game of chess. These people are pawns. They are pushed out with agendas, with things to say. And I love people like Russell Brand speaking out, saying, "Here's what it was like." And what I also love is talking to celebrities um, who have converted to Christianity since being in the entertainment world. And I'm like, "Here's my mission. How can I better reach your people?" Basically. I saw Kel Mitchell a couple weeks ago from Keenan and Kel.
Yep.
Um, and it was really funny. So I went with this pastor to this Comic Con. He brought me in to preach, and there was a Comic Con. He's like, "Can I just shadow you and see how this works?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." And he was so sweet. He took care of lunch and everything because usually I tease people I fast at Comic Cons because I just don't have time to go get something to eat.
Right.
Um, but he went and got some delicious Culver burger, and I was like, "Oh yes, praise the Lord for this." And so we're sitting in the hallway. Well, Kel Mitchell comes walking by, and anybody who's a fan of him, I was like, he looks, he goes, "Is that a good burger?" I'm like, "Oh my gosh, yes, it's a good burger." But I talked to him, because he's actually a youth pastor.
Right.
And I said, "Here's what I do. Here's my prayer card." And he was like, "Oh man, we need more of this in the entertainment world." Because that's what I try to call it more than even just Hollywood. It's the
Yeah.
entertainment world. I
Right.
said, "How can I better reach them?" He said, "Well, just continue to share Jesus with them." He said, people try to overcomplicate it. And then, of
Right.
course, I had to ask him, I said, "Have you ever witnessed the Keenan?" And he's like, "Oh, yeah, all the time." And he shared some details about that. But what I'm seeing more and more is that there are many people who they are faced with the choice: are they going to serve the world? Are they going to serve evil? Or are they going to break away? And we're seeing some break away. And a lot of the people I meet are not the elite, so to speak.
Right.
Like, I made a joke with somebody in Nashville last weekend who was at a Comic Con, and I'm not going to say their name because I don't want this to cause any issues to them because they
No,
said it to me
no.
privately.
Sure.
But they come from a very well-known family in Hollywood, very well known. Their last name alone will stop a door,
Right.
stop someone at the door. Um, and I'd met this person before, and she had said, "Have you you gave me a Bible, right?" I said, "Yes." And she was talking about it and telling me, she was like, I've read it some," and was sharing that with me. And she said, "I'm very ashamed to admit that's out of character for me. I've never read the Bible, this and this and this." And she said, "I know, shocking Hollywood elitist here." I said, "You're not Hollywood elite." And she goes, "Oh no, I'm not," and laughed. I said, and I name dropped several people. I said, "Now Beyonce, Jay-Z," and she's like, "Oh yeah, they're off on their own thing." And I'm like, see, that's the thing. These people in the entertainment world, they know that, oh yeah, we don't go over to that side of Hollyweird, but everybody gets lumped in together. The same way the world looks at Christianity and they lump us all
Yep.
together with Westboro Baptist, Kenneth Copeland, and all of
Yep.
these crazy people. And
Yep.
that's just simply not true. And so you can't, again, we live in a society, it's guilt by association. But so my encouragement to youth pastors is, um, don't make kids feel like you're attacking them. Encourage them to put their faith and trust in their hero, to be Christ alone. um, that being said, there's nothing wrong with having a fandom as long as the fandom doesn't become an idol. And I've
Right.
seen that. I have seen that because, so here in East Tennessee, Dolly Parton is like, that lady walks hand in hand with Jesus to people.
Yes.
And I'm not going to go off on a Dolly rant,
No. No.
but I'll just say this. I've met Dolly. My Dolly story is not great.
Mm,
And I have shared that story around here, and I have made people mad.
sure.
They turn it on me. The long story short is, she was filming a movie in Dollywood, was asking for people to be extras in the movie, and if you were an extra, you would get a photo with her and get to meet her. Um, Come the day of the event, you got nothing. And I may or may not have called her out on it
Mm,
because she was like, "We have time to do a quick Q&A." I'm like, "I've been sitting here for 9 hours." Um, I was like, "I have a gift for you, this and this and this." "Oh, if I took time with you, I'd have to take time with everybody." And I just said, "Well, that's what we were promised." And oh man, her nephew came and chewed me out. He was like, "We'll ban you from Dollywood if you ever embarrass her again." I'm like, "Oh no." But
yeah.
it was just so silly. And so anyway, I share that story, and people around here are like, "Oh no, no, she must have just been having a bad day." And it's like, "No, no, no. See, this is where it gets idolizing." My
Yeah.
best friend, who I
She would
love
never
with,
do that.
yes, my best friend, if I've had some students say, "Oh, Matt did this," and I'm like, "Did he?" And I'll go over to him and I'm like, "Dude, don't do that," or whatever, because I don't idolize my friend. We're all flawed people. So
Right.
when we get to that point of idolizing, that's when we should address it as pastors and be like, "This is a problem." But
Right.
I
Right.
encourage, approach the issue, approach the context of the problem, because
Yeah.
again, I think Billie Eilish has made some good music. I think she's made some bad music. I think she is desperately somebody who needs Christ, and I would love nothing
Yeah.
more than to share Jesus with her.
Sure.
But
And I think that's
that's
good
just a good
wisdom.
example.
Right. And I think that's good wisdom for youth pastors. I think that's just, and I probably was guilty because I've been doing this for a minute. So early in or like early 90s, where maybe I didn't quite grasp in my first couple of years of youth ministry that, that listen, when you have if you remember the old video series that talked about rock and roll and the devil and the guy
Hmm.
that went around and would do the tours about music. That guy came to our church.
Oh gosh.
And actually, it was that guy, watching that guy, that actually broke me from that. I think I went, oh no, that's not what I want to be. I don't want
Yeah.
I don't want to do it that way. And so that converted me in the other direction. It reinforce what I already believed. It actually repelled me. I went, oh no, no, no,
And
I can't
sometimes
be
we need
that
to see
guy.
that.
Yeah, I can't be that guy. This generation, I don't want, I also, don't want to be all worldly, but I also don't want to be that guy where everything is
Exactly.
evil and bad and wrong. And let's attack everything, right? Let's point out,
Right.
let's do backmasking and let's play records backwards. And oh my gosh, no, let's
That's one
not
of the
do that.
craziest things. One thing I'll tack on to that is be careful with social media.
Sure.
Social media, first of all, that's forever. Second of all, I think people would be shocked how many celebrities read social media, especially their
Mm.
comment section. Um, and I'll give a silly example. I posted a few weeks ago an old throwback photo with a celebrity, and I used to have a bowl cut. It was terrible. It was awful. I looked like Will Byers from Stranger Things, and I know I
Oh
did.
boy.
Oh, it was bad.
Yeah.
And I started getting roasted in the comments, and I thought this is hilarious. So I started
Yeah.
sharing some of them on my story. This one guy replies and goes, "Oh my goodness, if I'd known you were going to read my comment, I would have never said it. I'm so sorry. I hope I didn't offend you." I'm like, two things. First of all, I'm not a stick in the mud. That was funny. Second of all, if you didn't think I'd ever read it, why did you comment it? And I think that's what we do a lot of times with celebrities and people in
Yeah.
the entertainment world, because they're on back on the Billie Eilish train. There's a video of her a few years ago talking about how she is scared of Christians because we're so mean. And she's like, go
Yeah.
to my comment section. And people, oh, she's worshiping the devil. She's doing this. She's doing that. She said, and I tell them, I'm agnostic.
Yeah.
I don't know if I even believe in God. So why would I worship Satan? Because if I don't believe in God, I definitely don't believe in Satan. And I'm like,
Sure.
that's a very valid, fair point. But again, we just take to our keyboard warriors and we say things we would never say to somebody face to face. There is somebody who I went to a church and I preached, met this person. They started following my Facebook page. They would comment the rudest things. Anything
Ooh.
from how I typed something to what I was wearing. And it was just like, what in the world? I went back to that church and I'm like, I'm ready to rock and roll rumble with this guy. Nicest person to my face. And I'm like, and I just confronted it. I said, hey, so do you want to talk about that? Oh, no. I'm like, see, this is a problem that even adults have just as bad as children. So that's another way we can be careful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, who do you have? Who's coming up on your list here? Are there some, who can we be praying about? Those that are listening, those that are watching, keep these folks in prayer. Who are the people that you're going to be sharing the gospel with maybe in the near future?
So Tuesday, I'm going to see Michael Richards from Seinfeld.
God bless them.
He, I'm telling you, he is an interesting character, and I don't mean that in a bad way.
Right.
I read his autobiography, and he talked about during he jokes. He's like, I canceled myself. I didn't let society cancel me. I just stepped away. But he was like, through that, I've been trying to find faith, and I'm like, all right, perfect. Here we go. See, that's an example right there. I was like, okay, prime focus right there. Another couple of people coming up. I'm going to see Emma Roberts at the end of the month. Rory Culkin. Who else is coming around? I'm hoping to see Al Jardine from the Beach Boys again.
Okay.
I've got a very good relationship with Mike Love. Like when I say relationship, he knows me. It's a good version of Chevy Chase. He knows me when he sees me.
Yeah.
He has sent his wife to bring me to meet and greet areas backstage. He's given me free tickets before. Just a good guy. Al
Yeah.
Jardine, sadly, is they're anybody who's a music fan knows there was a big split with the Beach Boys. Al
Right.
Jardine's on the other side of that. Um, I've only gotten to witness Al once, and that was a decade ago.
Mm.
And I've heard he has become very curmudgeon-y towards people approaching him. So be praying that's not the case. I'm trying to think of another couple of people coming up. Hopefully, Carl Urban, David Byrne from the Talking Heads. There's a lot coming up.
Yeah.
The Comic Cons I'm going to, and I say this just because people can look at a guest list and kind of get an idea. Scaradise in Tampa, MegaCon Orlando, um, Planet Comic Con Kansas City. I always go to Fanboy in Knoxville. So those are shows to be keeping an eye on, to be praying for.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So how can the people watching, people listening, support the work you're doing? How can they say, hey, I'd like to get a Bible to somebody, or I'd like to, help pay for Comic-Con prices or whatever it may be?
Yeah, so there's a couple ways. The biggest way you can support us is pray for us, and pray for these souls. So if you're not already, follow us on Instagram, Facebook. It's Celebrity Evangelist. And I always preface, it's the name of the ministry. I'm not calling myself a celebrity. I get that about every week. No. But so follow us on social media. And then if you go to our website, celebrityevangelist.org, you can click on a tab that says Join the Mission. And on Join the Mission, there's two options. We put opportunities for meet and greets at different Comic Cons. Because, again, anybody who goes to a Comic Con, you have to pay to get up to each individual celebrity.
Right.
I have seen people just walk up to them without paying. That is very poorly
Ooh,
received.
ooh, no.
They're there to make money. That's, to
Yes,
me, I'm not, again, it's so funny. They're like, oh, they're doing this for the fans. No, they're not. They're here to make money. They can be nice while they do it. They can be a good person, but they're here for work.
that's
Um,
correct.
so, and I never want to be that person. And again,
Right.
it's just like, oh, there's that stereotypical, Christian, not paying whatever. So obviously that adds up. Like I went to this really small convention in Arkansas a couple weeks ago, and the price just to get up to the people we went up to was over $1,000, and that was just one quick day. No material, no travel expenses. That was just at the convention. But what we do is we put on Join the Mission. You'll see different names and prices, and people are like, "Well, why do you tier the prices?" That's what they're charging. That's not me tiering the price. It's like, okay, this is how much this person's charging to meet them, and so if you do a Join the Mission that way, you get the autograph. So I'll walk up to, I'm just going to use Rory Culkin as an example because I just mentioned him. He's going to be at Scaradise Tampa. If I put him on Join the Mission and you sponsor that, you have your choice of it. If time allows, they can personalize it. It can be to you, somebody else, whatever. I update you that weekend through text, email, messenger, whatever. Let you know kind of behind the scenes, how did it go, and mail you that autograph. Another way, and this is the most common way people support the ministry, is sponsoring Bibles. So on the same Join the Mission page at the very bottom, you'll see sponsor a Bible. And what that does is literally what it says, sponsor a Bible. And they're $35. And sometimes we'll get somebody a study Bible and it'll exceed $35. We cover that. That's on us. It all balances out. And we can't take specific requests who the Bible goes towards. You're going to find out who your Bible went towards when we post it online, and the
Mm,
wait you're just put on a wait list. And right now we are just finishing up people from October, so which is a good problem to have. And that's
right.
I don't know how the ministry could be where it is right now without that, because having these Bibles embossed, that's something we started just a year and a half ago, and that's been a game changer with having these conversations with people. And it really blows my mind how that can break a wall more than anything else. Just seeing your name on the Word of God. I had somebody this past weekend who's an ex-Scientologist break down crying and said, "Thank you for giving me God's Word." And just acknowledging that's the Word of God is a huge step within itself. And we had a good conversation. And then if you just want to give a general donation, there's a general donation link on the website as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, and I think too that you bring that up about, thank you for giving me God's word. It reminds me of that Bill Murray, where you gave him the Bible, and he says, "This is the greatest gift I've ever been given." I think, if I read
Mhm.
it correctly. It's the most
Yes.
beautiful gift. I think he says the most
Yes.
beautiful gift. It's the most beautiful gift I've
And
ever been
if his
given.
name had not been on there, I don't think it would have had the same impact. I really don't.
Right. And I think that is that's the secret sauce. That's like,
Yes.
hey, putting your name on here, and this is for you. And if you're watching, if you're listening, can I encourage you? All the links will be down below in the show notes. Reach out, give a Bible, let your youth ministry sponsor a Bible, do all those things. These are real conversations, folks. These are real people that are being met, their needs are being met, and a seed is being sown. So if you care about, the entertainment industry, if you would say I'd like to see some changes, right?
Mm.
I like
Yes.
better, people with morals and principles, and more importantly, people who are saved, who are within the industry, who can do that. Well, guess what? You have a celebrity evangelist you can support, who can actually go out and do the work and help you make the changes that you're so desperately preaching about every week. So
Exactly. And I think that's another thing. The people, I think, fail to realize the true impact the entertainment world has on our culture. And
yeah,
if we were to see a revival there, how that would trickle down would be incredible.
no question. And I think your part in it is significant, I would say. I mean, I know there's other people who do things, other things going on, but this type of one-on-one commitment to deliver God's word to somebody, I think is going to play a part in that revival. So we're grateful. I'm grateful and thankful. If you see my friend Michael Bean, Terminator man, maybe I'll sponsor a Bible for him. Just tell him I said thanks. I'm not going to go up to his table though. Love him, care about him. Would love to see him in heaven with me. And so if you see him, hey, give him one for me. But okay. Uh,
Absolutely.
but Al, hey, Dylan, thank you so much. Appreciate your time today. Thank you for being so generous today. I hope
Oh
everybody
my
goes and
goodness.
checks
Thank
out
you, Paul.
all the things down below and all that stuff. But man, appreciate your hard work and your commitment to the gospel and seeing things change in our world. So thank you so much.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.